Hello, welcome to our RecapPlus channel with me, Matthew. Today we will watch a recap movie called The Black Phone, released in 2021. This is a spoiler content video. So please turn on the subtitle and let's start the story. The movie opens with a scene featuring Mason Thames, a 13-year-old boy held captive in a soundproof basement by a sadistic masked killer. In the basement, there's a disconnected phone on the wall, and it starts ringing. To Mason's surprise, he can hear the voices of the murderer's previous victims through the phone, and they are determined to ensure that what happened to them doesn't happen to Finney. In 1978, in Denver, Colorado, a Little League baseball game was taking place. Finney Blake is pitching while his sister Gwen cheers him on. Despite getting 2 strikes, on the third pitch, Bruce Yamada from the opposing team hits the ball, scoring a home run and winning the game. Bruce compliments Finney's pitching skills. Later, Bruce is seen riding his bike around town and interacting with various people, including some girls from school. However, his day takes a dark turn when a black van pulls up in front of him, causing him to stop abruptly. Finney and Gwen live with their father, an abusive alcoholic who is still grieving the loss of his wife, the children's mother, who had committed suicide. As the siblings walk to school, they come across a group of kids witnessing the school bully, Moose, harassing another student named Robin Arellano. To everyone's shock, Robin displays impressive fighting skills, overpowering Moose and severely injuring him. Finney and Gwen continue on their way to school. At school, Finney faces bullying from 3 boys who follow him into the bathroom and taunt him. Robin intervenes, threatening the bullies and encouraging Finney to stand up for himself. Meanwhile, 2 detectives visit the school to question Gwen in the principal's office. Gwen mentions having dreams related to the missing children and the grabber, a local kidnapper. She struggles to explain the meaning behind her dreams. The next morning, Finney wakes up to the sound of his father beating Gwen, blaming her for the police's visit to his workplace and questioning her dream's connection to Bruce's disappearance. During the altercation, Gwen breaks her father's liquor bottle, which further enrages him. He forces Gwen to deny the reality of her dreams, as her mother had similar dreams that were believed to be premonitions. Later, Robin is walking in the neighborhood when he encounters the grabber, who is waiting for him with black balloons. The parents in the neighborhood are informed about Robin's disappearance. At school, the bullies target Finney, beating him up. However, Gwen intervenes and defends her brother, striking one of the bullies with a rock. This act leads to Gwen getting kicked in the face, while the other 2 bullies continue to assault Finney to escape. Meanwhile, in school, Finney is paired up with Donna, his crush, as his science partner. Donna offers sympathy for Finney, knowing about the beating he endured. After school, Finney decides to split from Gwen as they walk home. He unexpectedly encounters the grabber's van. The grabber pretends to be a regular man, spilling his groceries. However, when Finney spots the black balloons, he realizes the danger. The grabber attacks Finney and sprays a chemical into his mouth, rendering him unconscious. He then throws Finney into the van. Gwen and the other kids from school soon discover that Finney is missing. In the grabber's basement, Finney is kept prisoner. There is only one window, but no one can hear him if he screams. The grabber taunts Finney but claims that he is special. On the wall, there's a black phone that is disconnected, and the grabber mentions hearing it ring before. Later, the phone rings again, and Finney answers it. He hears the voice of Bruce, who notices Finney's arm, calling it Mint. However, Bruce doesn't remember his own name or what he did when he was alive. Bruce gives Finney a tip about a space on the floor where he can move a tile and start digging. Finney spends his time digging and discreetly disposing of the dirt down the toilet. Gwen has a dream in which she sees a flashback of Bruce's life from childhood, including his developing interest in baseball. Mr. Blake, Gwen, and Finney's father talks to Gwen and reveals that her mother used to have dreams that were considered visions, which he believes drove her to commit suicide. He expresses his desire to prevent Gwen from going down the same path. Back in the basement, the grabber brings Finney eggs and a Sprite, assuring him that the food is clean. He also leaves the door unlocked. However, as Finney approaches the door, the phone rings again. This time, Finney hears the voice of a local paperboy named Billy. While talking to Finney, Billy's ghost appears next to him, with his face having been slashed by the grabber. Billy warns Finney that the unlocked door is a trap, and the grabber will be waiting upstairs with a knife. Billy also mentions a cable he left in a crack under the wall. Finney grabs a rolled-up mat and slides the cable up to the window bars, attempting to climb his way out. However, his weight causes the bars to be pulled off, leaving him with no way to escape in a series of dreams. Meanwhile, the detectives go around the neighborhood and speak to a man named Max, who is conducting his own investigation into the missing kids. He informs the detectives that he is staying with his brother for the time being. Gwen attempts to gather any information she can from her dreams to help find her brother. Back in the basement, the grabber asks Finney his name, but when Finney lies about it, the grabber shows him a newspaper article reporting his disappearance. When the grabber leaves, the phone rings again, and Finney speaks to a boy named Griffin. Griffin's ghost appears floating beside Finney, and Griffin tells him about a lock combination that he had written down. This combination is part of a game the grabber likes to play with his victims, called Naughty Boy. Finney finds the numbers, but Griffin cannot remember the exact combination. While the grabber is sleeping, Finney sneaks upstairs and tries every combination he can think of until he unlocks the door. Unfortunately, the grabber's dog, Samson, barks at the sound of the unlocking, which wakes up the grabber. Finney manages to run out of the house but is caught by the grabber down the street. Neighbors turn on their lights, but the grabber threatens to kill Finney if he makes a sound. He waits until the lights turn off before taking Finney back. Later, the phone rings again, but this time Finney hears the voice of a local punk named Vance Hopper. In a series of dreams, Vance is shown at an arcade, where he gets into a fight with two kids after one of them messed with his high score. He was arrested shortly after. In the flashback, Gwen finds herself alongside Vance, who is trying to communicate with Finney through the police radio. However, Finney cannot hear Gwen calling out to him. They end up at a house where Gwen tries to remember the number. Later, she rides her bike through the area to find the house and is spooked by the ghosts of the grabber's victims. Back in the basement, Finney listens to Vance's advice and discovers a hidden space behind the wall with a freezer. He tries to push through the door with all his might but is unable to open it, leading him to fear for his life. The phone rings once more, and when Finney answers, he hears the voice of Robin, who remembers both Finney and his own life in a series of dreams. Robin tells Finney that he has always been his friend and that now is the time for him to stand up for himself. He advises Finney to practice using the phone as a weapon and suggests filling the receiver with dirt to add some weight to it. Meanwhile, Gwen contacts the detectives and leads them to the address she saw in her dreams. At the same time, Max comes to the conclusion that the missing kids are in the house he is staying in because the grabber is his brother. He goes to the basement and is shocked to find Finney there. Just as Max attempts to help, the grabber kills him with an axe to the head. The grabber then goes after Finney, but the boy has utilized all the help from the ghost kids at his disposal. Finney sets up a rug over the hole he had dug using the cable to trip the grabber, causing him to fall into the hole and break his ankle upon hitting the bars from the window. Finney then begins to attack the grabber with the phone, and it rings one last time. He forces the grabber to hear the voices of his victims taunting him over his demise, and Finney ultimately snaps his neck. To distract Samson, the grabber's dog, Finney throws a steak from the freezer. The detectives search the house but find it empty until one officer discovers the basement. Instead of finding Finney, they find the bodies of the other 5 boys buried in the dirt. The house where Finney was held is located across the street. Finney unlocks the door and steps out into the sunlight, where Gwen sees him and runs to her brother. The authorities take care of the kids, and they are picked up by their father, who tearfully apologizes to both of them for how he treated them. Finney returns to school more confident than before, and the other kids see him as a legend for killing the grabber. The bullies no longer dare to mess with him, and he rejoins Donna in science class, but he tells her to call him Finn. To watch more video like this, click on the videos on your screen, and don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last I will say stay safe and stay healthy. See you next videos.